In this short video, we're going to be looking at constructive plate boundaries. Constructive plate boundaries are a divergent plate boundary. This meaning that the plates are moving away from each other in opposite directions. As a result of these plates moving away from each other, we don't get a massive hole in the Earth's surface leading down to the mantle, but we do find landforms that arise at these plate boundaries. Instead of getting our hole forming, what happens is magma rises from the mantle to fill the gap between the two plates as they move apart from one another. This magma cools and ultimately creates new plate, and it's for this reason that we call them constructive plate boundaries, as they're constructing new land. As these plates move apart, two landforms that we see are mid-ocean ridges and shield volcanoes. As the magma reaches the surface, it cools, forming these areas of high relief underneath the oceans. These essentially being a mountain chain that runs the entire length of the constructive plate boundary. A famous example of a mid-ocean ridge is the Mid-Atlantic Ridge, which can be found at the constructive plate boundaries between the North American and Eurasian plates and the South American and African plates. Sometimes, when the magma reaches the surface, it doesn't merely solidify into mid-ocean ridges, but rather can result in a volcanic eruption. Again, magma rises up to fill the gap between the two diverging plates. The volcanoes that we find at constructive plate boundaries are very different to those we find at destructive plate boundaries. They are not explosive in nature, but rather we see thin runny lava seeping from these shield volcanoes. Initially the volcano will be very small, however over time, as it erupts, it will create more land around it. We're not going to see the typical steep conical shape of a composite volcano, but rather this elongated dome shape. This is because that lava is runny. It doesn't contain the high levels of acidity that are found in composite volcanoes. As such, it can run far from its source, resulting in this shallow incline. In summary, a constructive plate boundary is a divergent plate boundary. The plates are moving apart from one another in opposite directions. As the plates move apart, magma rises up to fill the gap between them, rather than leaving us with a hole in the surface of the Earth. As this magma rises to the surface, becoming lava, it can result in the formation of two main types of landform. A mid-ocean ridge, which is essentially a large mountain range that runs the length of a constructive plate boundary underneath the ocean, as well as shield volcanoes, whereby we see thin runny lava create low dome-shaped volcanoes. Whatever landforms we find, constructive plate boundaries ultimately see the creation of new crust.